Is trucking still worth it in 2019? I'm gonna talk to you in this video about just that and let you know a few reasons why I personally don't think it is. So my brother-in-law asked me just the other day, man, he said, yo, man, listen, I'm thinking about getting my CDL, man. I got to do something, right? I got to make some money, right? And he asked me, a couple of questions about trucking, right? He's like, look, man, you making any money out there, man? You like it? You know what I mean? How is it? In this video, I'm gonna let you know what I discussed with him, right? But right after I had that discussion with him, I got in my car and I'm driving home and I'm scrolling through my YouTube feed and I see a video by the brother Trucker Brown. Shout out to the brother Trucker Brown. This video he made was he was giving his opinion or his perspective on whether truck driving is still worth it nowadays. It's a really good video. I'll leave you a link to the video and to his channel down below. He makes a lot of good videos. Again, shout out to brother Trucker Brown. But after watching his video and after having that discussion with my brother-in-law, I'm like, man, I got a little bit to chime in on this. I got 2 cents to chime in on this. So, I've been driving now for about 4.5 years. I've been driving the truck for about 4.5 years, right? I drive for my dad. Right, my dad's an owner operator, right? So I'm not an owner operator. I drive for someone, but I'm kind of like an owner operator because I know all of the expenses with this truck and I know all of the income that this truck makes because I'm the only one that drives it. So as I give you this information, I just wanted to give you a little bit of background, a little bit of context about what perspective I am coming from. It's a lot of different ways that you can be set up in truck driving, right? So, when I started 4.5 years ago driving a truck, man, and this is what the brother Trucker Brown was addressing in his video, I had a lot of older cats, not a lot, but I had several older cats saying to me, man, listen, man, trucking ain't what it used to be, okay? You ain't really gonna make no money out here like that, man. It's difficult to make money out here like that, right? It's definitely not what it used to be. It's definitely, the money's not in it like it used to be, and it's not as stable as it used to be. And, I used to get upset when I used to hear that from these older cats, right? And the brother Trucker Brown kind of sounded like he was a little bit frustrated with hearing this from older guys as well. And as I'm hearing him talk about this in this video, I'm like, yeah, I remember that when I first started driving, man. It was almost like the older cats was telling me, it was almost like they were saying to me, listen, man, kill all that ambition, man. Kill all that ambition, man. Chill out, relax. You know what I mean? When you're at the back of the line, it ain't no big deal. Don't be panicking and all that good stuff because you ain't gonna make no whole lot of money out here like that anyway. So you're used to coming with all of that. And I used to get offended, man, because I'm just coming into the trucking business, just coming into driving a truck. And I'm like, listen, I ain't here to hear that I can't make no money, all right? I'm here to hear that I can make some money. I come here to make some money. So now I don't want to hear that I can't make no money, right? So I used to get a little bit offended when older cats used to tell me that, man. But like I said, now I've been driving now for 4.5 years, almost 5 years, man. And my personal opinion on about whether trucking is still worth it in 2019, I personally don't think so. Now notice my key words. I personally don't think so. Like I already said, there's a lot of different ways that you can be set up in trucking. And so when I say I personally don't think that it is, let me be clear. What I'm actually saying, and I'll be honest with you, I don't really like my setup. Okay, I don't necessarily like my setup, but my setup is different. Like I said, I work for the family business. That's a whole nother subject. I got a good job and all of that good stuff, but my situation is different, right? So, but I feel like I got to work a little bit too hard for my money on the owner operator side of things, on the side of things of having to pay for the fuel and the expenses and all of that good stuff. Like I said, I'm not paying for that stuff myself, but I see all of the expenses and all of the income that this truck makes. And it's scary, man. It's scary. I'll be totally honest with you, man. Now, with that being said, I'll give you my own personal opinion that, like I said, hey, man, it ain't easy out here, right? Now, I can't tell you that it's not what it used to be because I've only been driving for 4.5 years, okay? When I say I don't think it's worth it, I'm comparing it to my experiences. I'm comparing it to the other ways that I've made money before I got in trucking. I've made money in other ways as well. And compared to the other things that I've done, it's like, I don't know, man. I had a sales career for 15 years. And while I'm not in that anymore, I actually saw a lot more opportunity in that than I do in this. Now, with that being said, I was talking to my brother the other day, not my brother-in-law, my brother. Shout out to my brother Coconut, right? That's his handle. And he was telling me he was having a conversation with a friend of his. And his friend was like, listen, man, I'm trying to get my son out here on the road. And my brother was like, are you crazy? Are you crazy? You trying to get your son out here on the road with us when you see all of what we going through out here? And I'm like, oh, bro, what are you saying? Would you advocate for a trucking career or would you not advocate for a trucking career? He was like, man, listen, I wouldn't recommend that anybody get into trucking right now. Now, again, my brother is an owner operator as well. My brother has one truck. My dad has two. My brother has one. My dad don't have his own authority. My brother's got his own authority. Okay, he can go and run however he wants to. And even from that perspective, he's like, listen, man, and he's been driving for over 20 years now. He's like, it's definitely not what it used to be, and it's definitely a lot more hassle, a lot more regulation and stuff. Everything is more difficult. Everything is more expensive. And so, you know, again, I don't have his 20 years of experience to compare it to, but I personally don't think it's worth it, but I'm not the only one that don't think it's worth it. Like I said, I heard that from a lot of cats before I got out here, and I hear that from my own brother now that I am out here. So, you know, again, you can be set up in trucking a lot of different ways, man. You know, I don't go out of the state of Virginia. My brother kind of runs regional, right? You can run, you know, nationwide, all over, right? You can have your own authority. You can not have your own authority. You can be leased to somebody, right? It's a bunch of different ways that you can be set up. So I would say that, you know, it has a lot to do with you. Has a lot to do with you, has a lot to do with your goals, has a lot to do with your risk tolerance, how much risk you're willing to take. One of the reasons I don't want to buy this truck from my pop right now is because I don't want to take on the risk, because I see the expenses that come along with that risk. My brother said, well, hey, maybe you could look into, if you really want to, you know, have your own truck, you could look into leasing a truck from somebody. That way the leasing company would take some of that expense off of you and it'd be a little bit less risky. So again, there are other ways that you can be set up. But on the owner operator side of things, man, the cost of fuel and the rates that we getting for freight and all of that good stuff out here, and how much freight there is available to haul. It's interesting, man. I was talking to another older cat the other day, man, at the store up the street that I get fuel from. This cat named George. He changes tires now, and he used to drive 18-wheeler back in the days, and he was making a little joke. He said, man, do you remember BJ and the Bandit? And I'm like, yeah, I remember BJ and the Bandit, man. I remember that. Like, I'm 43 years old right now. I was born in 75, so BJ and the Bandit was on somewhere around late 70s, early 80s, mid 80s. If you were around that same age, you might remember that. But he said BJ and the Bandit used to say on that show that I'll go anywhere for $1.50. He was like, BJ and the Bandit used to say, or BJ used to say that on the show, or whichever one was the driver. I can't remember which one was the driver, which one was the monkey, but whichever one was the driver was like, I'll go anywhere for $1.50, right? So, and at the same time, George is telling me that this exact same time, fuel prices were 50 cents a gallon. So around this same time that this guy, it was a TV show, we know that, but the point is, he was getting $1.50 a mile then and paying 50 cents per gallon for fuel. When I heard that the other day, I'm like, wow, I get $1.50 a mile right now. That's what this truck gets right now in 2019, yet fuel is a little bit over $3 per gallon. So when I heard that, just that dynamic alone let me know that it's, yo, man, it's a lot of the money that have been sucked out of this thing, man. It really is. Again, and that's because of all of the regulation and all of the stuff that's in place now. You know, those are all reasons, you know, any violation costs you money. But 20, 30 years ago, they didn't have you couldn't get as many violations because the industry wasn't as regulated from what I understand. So a lot of the money that's been taken out of it on the side of things that I am. Now, with all of that being said, again, you can be set up a lot of different ways, man. Do I think that it was a worthwhile investment to get my CDL 4.5 years ago? Absolutely. Absolutely. I definitely think that it's a worthwhile investment to get your CDL. I definitely think it's a worthwhile investment to study, pay your $4, $5, $6 grand to go to school if you got to get your CDL. I've definitely made my money back from the money that it cost me to get my CDL. You know, where I live at, in the area that I live in, New Kent, Virginia, New Kent, West Point area, I see Class A CDL, hiring Class A CDL signs all over the place. Right? So if you got a CDL and a good driving record, there's no reason you shouldn't be able to find something to make some money. Like I said, I'm talking about on the side of things of being the actual owner and having to deal with the expenses and all of that good stuff. But as for driving for somebody, man, there's CDL jobs out here everywhere. And I've never driven for anyone else other than my dad, an 18-wheeler. I was driving a truck before I started driving for my dad, but it wasn't a CDL class truck. I didn't even have to have a CDL to drive it. The only person I've ever worked for since I've had my CDL is my dad. I'm not the job type. Okay, I'm not the job type. I've never had a job that I enjoyed. Okay, every bit of money that I've ever made in my adult life has always been as a result of my entrepreneurial endeavors. And so I don't think I would enjoy, working a job, working for another trucking company in the area. That's not the reason why I haven't gone and put in an application. Like I said, I work for the family. My thing is a little bit different. But the point is, if you got a CDL in my area, you should be able to find a job. You should definitely be able to find a job. I got a friend down in Charlotte. His name's Zoe. Shout out to Zoe if he see this video. He goes from Charlotte to Atlanta every night. Round trip about 500 miles. He makes about 50 cents a mile. He makes good money. He drives for someone, right? There's never any holdups on his equipment. If something's wrong with his truck, they got another truck waiting for him, right? There's never any holdups on his load or any of that good stuff. Every night it's the same thing. It's a dedicated run. Again, my setup is a little bit different than that. And you could be set up different from me as well. So again, he makes really good money doing what he does. He makes about 50 cents a mile. I make about 50 cents a mile, but I don't get 500 miles round trip a day like he does, right? And there's nothing wrong with the company that I work for. There's several other guys up there as well that are owner operators that pull out of that company as well, the same one that I do. So I'm not complaining about the company or anything. If they weren't paying people fairly, there wouldn't be anybody else there. So they're paying the going rate, right? It's just that in our area, that's what I hear. And I don't know if it's just our area or all over. I know I hear a lot of that where we are right here. Limited on what freight we can haul, and I live in between two ports. I live in between the port in Richmond and the port in Norfolk. And I still hear the same thing, man. There's not a lot of freight running. There's not a lot of good paying freight running, right? So just because it's freight running, if you're an owner operator, you can't just take whatever they give you. It's got to pay enough to pay, a driver. It's got to pay enough to be able to put fuel in the truck and all of that good stuff as well. And when you're driving for somebody, you're not really, you ain't even really dealing with that stuff. So again, man, it depends on how you are set up. And you can be set up in a variety of different ways. All the different ways that you can be set up, that's a whole nother video, okay? Because there are a lot of options out here. But the industry has most certainly changed, right? The older cats that was telling me this before I got into business, I don't feel like they were lying, right? And like I said, I used to get upset when they were telling me that because I used to feel like they was trying to kill my motivation and my ambition, but they won't try to kill my motivation and my ambition, man. Like my brother told me the other day, he said, I ain't telling you, that this thing has changed and you might want to consider doing something different because I'm trying to stop you from coming out here. I'm telling you that because, like, if you ever was going, ain't no use in getting in it and then finding out, right? I can let you know right now, listen, bro, if you're expecting to get this, and this, you might have to tone back your expectations just a little bit, being that you out here on the operator side of things. As far as going to get a job for somebody, again, that's a whole different story, man. Like I said, in my area, they hiring for CDL drivers everywhere. So it's definitely worth it to get your CDL. But has the trucking industry changed a whole lot over the last few years? Absolutely. Is it a lot more difficult and more expensive to get set up in business? Absolutely. We have record numbers of people filing for the authority right now every single month, right? But we also got record numbers of companies shutting down as well. So there's a reason for that. It's tough out here, right? Again, I always picture the truck driver, big $50, $70, $80,000 truck, house paid for, right? Making plenty of money, working 2-3 days a week, 3-4 days a week, park the truck for the rest of the week. I don't know nobody that's doing that right now. None of the owner operators I know is doing that right now. So I just wanted to give you my 2 cents on whether trucking is still worth it in 2019. I hope you got some value from this video. Here's what I want you to do. If you are a truck driver, okay, if you drive a truck, leave a comment down in the comment section, okay? This will be real interesting for the people that's wanting to know how truckers get paid, right? Leave a comment down in the comment section. Leave where you are in the country, what state. Leave whether you think trucking is worth it or not. Leave in there how much you make by the mile, right? How much you get paid by the mile, or how much you get paid by the load. If you want to, you can leave how many hours, right? You putting in a week, because people want to know that as well, right? All of this comes into play when you're talking about is truck driving worth it. So leave a few of those comments down in the comment section below. Like I said, if you drive a truck, and that way the people that looks at this video, they'll scroll through the comments and they'll get an idea to see, real time what truckers make in 2019, instead of having to Google stuff and get information that ain't necessarily up to date. So this is Maurice Bay. Make sure you subscribe to my channel to stay updated when I release a new video. Thanks for watching.